Hey, Mike. What? Who's got next?
What's good, y'all? It's your man, Hezo, and welcome back to the Blacktop, where I always got next, you feel me? Ah, man, very tough loss in Quinn Snyder's debut as the head coach. I'm going to get my thoughts about the hire. My apologies for not being able to get a video out for the, the reaction video for the Quinn Snyder hiring, as well as the last game recap. If y'all did not see my two posts, I wasn't sick or anything, but a lot of y'all don't know, I have really bad lower back problems, and my back was in excruciating pain, so I was just not able to really just sit here and record a video. My back was just in way too much pain, so again, my apologies for that. I want to get that out the way. So the Wizards, man, they spoiled Quinn Snyder's coaching debut for the Hawks, and we got a lot to dive into for this one. Subscribe if you are new, drop a like on the video, help me grow my channel out, and let's get right into it. So since I didn't get a chance to record a video on the hire, I want to talk about that real quick for just a moment before I dive into the actual recap. In all honesty, I love the move. I love the hire. I think Quinn Snyder he's a winning coach in this league. No, he never got the Jazz to the finals, and I get all that, but he holds players accountable in his development for the way he's done with those Jazz teams, turning Rudy Gobert into a defensive player of the year, Donovan Mitchell into an all-star. Quinn Snyder is a huge reason for those, and he's always been one of the best defensive coaches in basketball. So overall, I love the hire. I love what I saw from him on the sidelines tonight. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. So let's get into this recap. So this game was all about Bradley BEAL, man. Bradley BEAL really carried the Wizards the entire game, as well as Kyle Kuzma, and had a big stretch of the game, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video. This game's kind of started out, and Bradley BEAL got to a good start. One thing I do want to point out was when Wes Unseld Jr. challenged that call with under 2 minutes into the game. I've never seen a coach challenge a call that early in the game when it's 6-2. Very questionable coaching decision there for Wes Unseld. I don't get it, but it is what it is. I just thought that was kind of weird, and I just wanted to point that out. It was really back and forth scoring the entire first half. Kyle Kuzma really played an excellent game. He was attacking really the entire first half. He started to settle a little bit more for jump shots in the second half, but the whole first half, man, he was just attacking the rim. Was drawing contact. Didn't really get to, I don't even know if he got to the free throw line a handful of times, but he was just getting and finishing at the rim, and he looked really good. Bradley BEAL really carried them, and these two guys were really their only source of offense throughout the entire night for the most part, with a little bit of Daniel Gafford chipping in here and there, a little bit of DeLon Wright chipping in here and there. But overall, it was a back and forth game, really the entire game, the entire first half, as well as the second half. Hawks went on a solid closeout to close out the half, up 4, even though they got a very bad foul with Trey fouling DeLon Wright on that half-court heave, which cut the lead from 7-4 going into the half. Just a bad foul, and Trey's got to be smarter than that, but still up by 4 at the break. Now, the second half started, Atlanta was getting stops on defense, getting out in a transition. It was great to see. They really controlled most of the second half up until that final stretch of the ball game, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. Trey really got going in the third quarter. I think he had a 16-point third quarter, really started to heat up, and he was getting really whatever he wanted, getting into the paint, getting into isolation, getting guys involved. He was pretty much doing everything in the third quarter, but just a very sloppy close to the third quarter. We went up as much as like 10, but just a sloppy close out to the third quarter. Way too many fouls, and I think, well, look, man, Washington was getting the benefit of a lot of those calls, but you got to credit Washington. They were being aggressive, being physical, getting contact, and drawing those calls, even though some of them were very questionable. Just a bad job on Atlanta, and with those foul calls. So very sloppy close to the third quarter, and that was tough to watch. Now the whole fourth quarter was a battle, man. It was a battle from start to finish. Atlanta would go up 8. Washington would hit a couple buckets back to back, cut the lead to 4, and they just kept hanging around. And I'll be honest, man, I didn't really feel good about it. I just wasn't seeing enough offensively from Atlanta to be able to, or really on the defensive end, because they could not stop Bradley BEAL. Kuzma hit a couple threes early on in the fourth quarter, but towards the end of the ball game, man, Bradley BEAL was just too much. They kept attacking Trey all night on the defensive end, getting him into a switch, guarding Bradley BEAL, and they just couldn't guard him. It was either they would get a switch with Trae Young or with Clint Capella, and every single time it felt like Bradley BEAL was getting a bucket. He finished with 37 on the night, and Washington went on a 17-5 run in the fourth quarter, which got them the lead and really just They didn't look back from there, man. And that was very, very sloppy, horrible offense from Atlanta down the stretch of the ball game. Trey was trying to do too much. He kept trying to challenge Daniel Gafford in the paint, and I don't understand that because every time he threw it up, it seemed like Daniel Gafford was swatting that shit away. And it was very frustrating because they weren't really getting into an offensive set like we've seen in the past. And no, I'm not going to blame Quinn Snyder for that. I'm going to blame the bad offensive habits that this team has had throughout throughout the season. Y'all keep in mind, man, Quinn Snyder just got here yesterday. He just showed up in Atlanta yesterday, so he hasn't really had a lot of time with implementing an offensive system and everything like that. So it was kind of on the Hawks tonight to execute on offense down the stretch of the game, and we did not see that. Trey hit that 1-3 to cut it to a 1-point lead, and then down 3 was 119-116. Trey got 2 great looks at the 3 ball and just couldn't knock him down, and it was just tough to watch. Man, it was just, like I said, it just a very poor executed stretch of the ball game. Very sloppy offense, not getting stops. Bradley Beal kept getting to his spot and just getting everything he wanted. And you knew Bradley Beal, with the way he was cooking, the ball was going to be in his hands. I would have liked to see DeAndre Hunter guarding him as opposed to DeJounte Murray, because let's be honest, man, he was cooking DeJounte all night. He was cooking Trey all night. I would have really liked to see DeAndre Hunter on him, down the stretch of that ball game, because he is 6'8". He has a longer wingspan. He would have been able to contest a shot better. Now, I know they were trying to get to his switch and try to get Trey on him, whatever you want to call it. But either way, I would have liked to see them kind of either force the ball and double Bradley Beal and force the ball out of his hands for them to make somebody else beat him. If somebody else, knocks down a shot, you live with that, man. But you cannot live with Bradley Beal getting into an isolation shot or just, a kind of a one-on-one matchup where he can either get to a step-back jump shot or an up and under. And that's what we saw down the stretch of the ball game. Bradley Beal carried. And shout out to the Wizards. They fought and fought and fought all game long. And again, Bradley Beal carried. This is a dude who's capable of putting up 35 on any given night. Capable of putting up 40 points on any given night. And we saw that tonight. He finished with 37 and carried, and I mean carried, the Wizards down the stretch of that ball game. And like I said earlier in the video, Daniel Gafford had a lot of big shots down the stretch of the ball game, a lot of big offensive rebounds, a lot of big defensive plays. He really stepped up on the defensive end. He had a couple clutch free throws down the end of the ball game. Really, it was 3 guys for the Wizards tonight, with a couple other guys that, somewhat got involved, like Corey Kispert. But Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, and Daniel Gafford really were the 3-headed monster for the Wizards tonight, and it just wasn't enough for Atlanta. Couldn't get enough stops on the defensive end down the stretch of the ball game. So very tough loss in Quinn Snyder's debut. So I'm gonna get into my final takeaways for this game. Number 1 was the coaching of Quinn Snyder, and I do mean that in a positive way. When I look at Quinn Snyder and he's on the sideline, he was very animated. He was, arguing with the refs and everything. I love to see that instead of, watching an entire game and our coach is sitting there like this. That's what Nate McMillan was. He was never animated on the sidelines. He was hardly ever arguing calls. And we saw a different kind of atmosphere and energy from the coaching tonight from Quinn Snyder. And a lot of the guys were buying in, and you can tell the energy level was different, even though we did end up losing the game ultimately, which it was a very important game. But overall, I liked what I saw out of Quinn Snyder, and I think it is going to get better through the rest of the season and going into the offseason and going into next season. So I really like what I saw from Quinn Snyder on the sidelines tonight. I'm very, very excited for him as the head coach going forward. So number 2 is the impact of Saddiq Bey. Since the trade that we made at the deadline for Saddiq, he's really just been a positive impact. He's trying to find his fit into this team, and I really like the way he fits in. He's a knockdown shooter. He's shooting extremely efficient since he has came to Atlanta from 3. He hit like 3 or 4 threes again tonight and was one of the only source of the 3-ball tonight outside of Bogey, who's played really well, over the last couple games, who I have been critical of in the past, but he has played very well. So shout out to Bogey. Trey hit a couple threes tonight. DeJounte hit 1 or 2, and I think Dre hit 1 or 2. But overall, Saddiq's impact from the 3, and just he could improve on the defense. He hasn't been a great defender, but he's had his moments. And I think once he continues to fit in with this team and find his, his role and his rhythm, he's really gonna be a great addition going forward. So I love the impact that Saddiq Bey has made, and I cannot wait to see how he fits in going forward. I do like how he did close out the game, even though he didn't really, I don't think he attempted a shot in the last, 3.5 minutes, but I do like that Quinn Snyder did go with him over John Collins towards the stretch of the game, because John Collins was not having a great game. He did miss a wide open three, which I get it happens. Dre also missed a wide open three, so it is what it is. So my third and final takeaway for this game, once again, is the poor offensive execution down the stretch of the ball game. This has been over and over and over throughout the entire course of the season. And again, I'm not going to blame Quinn Snyder because he just got there. I'm blaming this on the players for their bad habits. Getting into that ISO ball, either Trey or DeJounte, with nobody else really getting an opportunity. Now, again, I know what some of y'all were thinking. Well, John Collins missed a wide open three. I understand that. Dre missed a wide open three. I understand that. But those were still good looks, and you're going to live with those misses as opposed to constant bad isolation offense. Now, I get DeJounte and Trey trying to attack the rim, but it wasn't working. So in those last couple possessions at the end of the game, you have to look for another source of offense. Dre and Saddiq Bey were both having relatively solid games offensively, and they did not really get involved in the offense in the last couple minutes of the game. And I've alluded to this several times throughout the past streams, videos, everything, man. This isolation shit is never gonna work. And we saw it again tonight towards the stretch of the ball game. And that's ultimately why we were not able to get good looks on offense, and then obviously leading to bad defense. When you can't execute on offense, it leads to bad defense. Now, Trey, again, I alluded to it earlier. Trey had 2 great looks at the basket to tie the ball game. I'm not going to be mad at those shots because they were good looks. He just missed them. We know those are shots that Trey can make. But overall, man, this was just a very tough loss and a very critical game that we really did need, especially after New York just won last night, as well as Miami. And now we lose to a team that's right below us in the standings. It's going to be very hard for us to make a 6 seed push with only about 21 games left or so in the season. We're sitting around four or five games back from the 6 seed, and it's going to be hard to make a push for that 6 seed going forward for the rest of the season. We just have to wait and see. Hopefully Quinn Snyder could really implement an offensive system that works the rest of the season, and we can really start to string together some ball games. We looked really good under those 2 games under Joe Prunty, got 2 back-to-back wins, and then we come out at home and fall to the Wizards, which is just, again, it's a very tough loss, man, because every single game from now on to the end of the season matters. So we can't be giving these games away, and I really felt like we gave away the game tonight, and you just can't let that happen. You gotta do a better job of closing out this ball game and finding a way to win, and we didn't do that tonight. I'm gonna pretty much leave it there, man. Not really too much more to go into for this game. We do still got a lot of basketball left. We'll see if we can maybe make a push towards the end of the season. Again, shout out to the Wizards. They played extremely well this game. Bradley Beal shot the lights out. He played a hell of a game. Kyle Kuzma played a hell of a game. Credit to the Wizards tonight for coming out and coming into Atlanta and getting the dub. Y'all leave your thoughts down in the comments. What did y'all think about this game overall? Where do you see us going forward? Where do you think we're going to finish in the standings come the end of the season and come playoff time? Leave a like on the video, and I will catch y'all next episode.